In this rather old case, Robart was the subtenant on an area of land in Middlesex in modern London, but back then it was a bit more rustic. He sought and obtained permission to put in place a workshop in which to make varnish, which was his trade. The building was not an especially substantial building according to the judgment. In fact, he had been using essentially the same building for his varnish business in another location previously, then pulled it down to rebuild it in this location. Sometime later, one of the over-tenants had their lease expire, which meant all of the subtenants lost their leases too, including Robart. Even without a lease, he continued to operate from the site for a while, but then began pulling down the buildings so he could move and set up shop somewhere else. The owner of the land objected, saying that the buildings which had been erected on the land were fixtures and part of the land now, and had to be left in place. Initially, you'd have to have some sympathy for this view. They were substantially attached to the land. Buildings are not really the sort of thing that one would normally expect to take from place to place. However, Lord Kenyon, the Chief Justice, said the old cases upon this subject lent to consider as realty whatever was annexed to the freehold by the occupier. But in modern times, the leaning has always been the other way in favour of the tenant, in support of the interests of trade which is become the pillar of the state. What tenant will lay out his money in costly improvements to the land if he must leave everything behind him which can be said to be annexed to it? This case then established the idea of a tenant's fixture, something that would ordinarily be considered a fixture, but which was put in place and paid for by the tenant with the intention that it would be removed and taken with them when they ended the tenancy. The key seems to be intention. A tenant's fixture is put in place without any intention that it be treated as becoming part of the land or part of the real estate, and so even things which otherwise look very much like fixtures might actually be treated as chattels.